Ich speichere trotzdem bei jeder Entscheidung. Wir finden es raus. Anyway, I couldn't hurt to try. And if it was a professional shadowing me, then he wouldn't let me bust him so easily twice in a row. I went into a clothing store and as quickly as I could bought a brightly colored windbreak and a cap after confirming that no one was watching me from the street. If you want to hide something, hide it in plain sight. The principle applied to a crowd as well. I darted into one of the numerous side streets, threw on the jacket and hat, tucked the shopping bag behind the downspout, and ran to the next street. I stepped around the corner next to a newsstand, drew the cap low over my face and kept glancing around me. Sure enough, before long the now familiar figure appeared in the distance. It made sense. He had taken a parallel side street instead of following on my heels. I made a half turn, hunched my shoulders and even crouched slightly so as to appear shorter. The pursuer was looking around frantically, having clearly lost sight of me. Yet he passed right by the newsstand without paying any attention to the guy in the flashy windbreaker. I followed him. Huh. The man was middle-aged, dressed in an unseasonably warm trench coat, dark pants and black shoes. He looked like a typical office worker. He stopped at an intersection, looked around and sighed loudly. I was literally 2 meters behind him. Lost someone? I finally ventured. Huh. He turned sharply and gave me a bewildered stare. No, everything's alright. Just as quickly the stranger's face took an impassive expression and he prepared to leave. Why were you following me? Following you? I wasn't following anyone. He regained his composure in a blink of an eye. I was supposed to meet someone here, but it looks like the person is not going to show up. That's someone. Is it me? Young man. He looked me up and down and continued coldly. This is the first time I've seen you. Then why follow someone you see for the first time? I have to go. I didn't try to stop him, that would have been something else. But damn it, things were going from bad to worse. First the notes and the calls, the mysteries of my family's past, and now someone trading me. The one thing that brought relief was that I was still alive. I know his laugh escaped my lips. Schoolgirls passing by exchanged anxious whispers. Enough, it was time to put an end to this. I would call my grandparents the very next day. It was already dark when I found myself in front of a music club, which I occasionally visited to see the local underground bands. Oh, Waldo Naito. If daytime in Tokyo still felt as warm as in the summer, evenings were getting increasingly colder. I wrapped myself more tightly in my denim jacket and shivered. The house was some distance from the club, so it made sense to go inside to warm up. Das ist ja so ein bisschen wie auf der Animix, ne? Nur dass die Crowd hier deutlich engagierter ist. Inside there was a sizable crowd. Cigarette smoke hung heavy and the air was saturated with the spicy aromas of beer, sake, whiskey and goodness knows what else. Frankly, a bender was not on my to-do list for the day, but this was too much to pass by. I got a beer from the bar and squeezed myself closer to the stage. The first band was playing some uncomplicated heavy metal. The Japanese bands playing this kind of music didn't try to reinvent the wheel content to blindly copy Western masters. Some managed this better than others. Ich will gerade mal gucken, ob es hier vielleicht irgendwo ein Easter Egg gibt. Ist auf jeden Fall sehr witzig, wie hier das Yamaha-Logo tatsächlich drauf ist. Ich hätte jetzt vielleicht gedacht, keine Ahnung, Hier ist so eine Alissa in der Crowd oder die Band von dem Alissa-Ending spielt hier, also sprich Semyon. Junge, das wäre episch, du. Das fände ich richtig nice. Ah. The present performers matched so-so, but which is why the majority in the audience were occupied with anything and everything except listening to the music. The wretched rockers, who couldn't possibly not notice this, got completely disheartened towards the end, trying only to avoid making complete fools of themselves. Then again, who was I to judge? I couldn't blame my best even at their level. The next band was dressed in the 70s style, a sure sign that some old school rock was to follow. So I went off to wander the club. Although I came here from time to time, I had never made any acquaintances. Usually I just stood around by myself, guzzling beer. It was pointless to accept international stars here, and as for the local bands, I cared about them chiefly to the extent that they helped me while away another boring evening. Oder war es ein Schreibfehler? I recalled how I had once brought Catherine here, but she did not like it in the least. Himitsu in turn altogether refused to go to the concerts for some reason. A young couple was cuddling in the corner. I watched them for a long time and suddenly felt revulsion. No, that won't do, I told myself. This night at least I was going to relax. I dashed to the bar, drowned 3 shots of whiskey, picked up another beer and headed back into the crowd. This time at a far less steady gait. The old farts had finished playing and the stage was now occupied by some glam rockers, tuning the instruments. "Come on, let's get rocking," I yelled. Heavy breathing. A guy standing near me glanced my way and said, "Yeah, we got a rock right, don't you worry." "What are you playing to or what?" "Sure. Then why aren't you on the stage? They're all busy tuning." "I don't need any tuning, I'm always tuned." Dude. Der Typ erinnert mich so ein bisschen an Scheiße, ich weiß gar nicht, wie der heißt. Ich wusste es mal, als ich so die ganze Zeit Gundam gezockt habe. Auf jeden Fall der eine Typ da von Gundam. Mir fällt der Name gerade nicht ein. He adjusted his sunglasses. Why was he wearing them indoors? See ya! With this, the guy disappeared into the dressing room. The lights dimmed and the speakers erupted with the first guitar chords. "Hey everybody, we are C Feel Z!" A familiar voice came over the microphone as bright lights beamed down from the rafters. Huh. Eine cute, was ist denn das? Gitarristin oder Bassistin? Ich sehe es leider nicht, aber es scheint eine E-Gitarre zu sein und kein Bass. Standing center stage in a rather unusual outfit was Ellie Gitter. Was? Oh, das ist Ellie. What? Was Ellie Gitter in hand? And not just standing, but singing and playing. Now this I was not ready for. I said out loud, but no one could hear me over the thundering music. Was? Als ob die das singt. Die ist Japanerin. Die Japaner schaffen nicht so ein perfektes Englisch. Yesterday's episode of Dragon Ball Z in the old music classroom came right back to me. Nani. Aber gehen wir mal davon aus, dass Ellie auch eine Ausländerin ist. Und vermutlich britische oder auch amerikanische Eltern hat. Dann ist es ja eigentlich ziemlich verständlich, dass sie so gut Englisch kann. Had the money driven her bonkers? I could understand a little strumming on the side, but this year I listened more intently. They did play quite well, and I wonder they'd been asked to head to the headline. The crowd clearly took well to the music too. As the first song ended, Ellie shouted "Thank you" in the mic and swayed the audience, lingering on me for a second. Did she spot me? Judging by the surprise and even a tad of embarrassment painted on her face, she did. So what? Did she really expect that no one was going to find out about her nighttime metamorphosis from an exemplary student and a gentle lady into a queen of the Tokyo glam scene? Hehehe, I chuckled. Have you fallen for her? Where did you come from? That weird kid who played the keyboard for CFLC was standing next to me again. You were just up on the stage. She's going to take some effort. Look, I had no such... We just go to the same school and sort of know each other. Oh, is that so? His eyes flashed from behind his sunglasses. What kind of dumb name is that anyway? CFL... It's pronounced Set Feels, like the anime robot, you know? Like the anime robot? Also ist das tatsächlich eine Anspielung auf Gundam? Lol, das wäre witzig. I looked at him skeptically. It's to attract fans. If the jam-packed club floor was any indication, CFLC did not lack for fans, at least not at this level. The crowd was getting lively in anticipation of the next song. An instant later, the guy I'd been talking to was back on the stage behind his instrument. They were playing some kind of ballad, and he kept shooting angry glances my way. But of course I came here just to cool distract her from the performance. Be that as it may, she did have a nice voice and played well too. Maybe she had a gift, but even so, to get this far with all the other obligations and responsibilities as a scion of a respected family? Time is finite. Time is finite. Time is finite after all. I had no obligations, no responsibilities, and yet all I had learned to play were 2 or 3 songs from tabs. Da kann ich noch so ein. I suddenly felt a surge of respect for Ellie and backed away from the stage so as not to embarrass her further. I backed up against the wall where she could not see me. Well, she doesn't do as well without you, anger imparts strength. What the devil? You're playing right now, as in this very moment. This very moment, it's a solo. This kid was starting to get to me, so I went back to stand near the stage. Boy. Seeing me, Ellie must hit the strings and a metal clanging sound roared the speakers. Were her fans and servants going to lynch me now? But the girl quickly recovered and carried on playing as though nothing had happened. But once the song was ended... Jetzt fängt das Lied schon wieder an. And before the next one began, Ellie furtively shook her finger at me from the stage. No, that was just ridiculous. How was this my fault? Was she fixated or what? I made a point of not looking at her, draining my attention on other members of CFLC. The bassist looked very ordinary, almost to a fault. Considering the band's style, I would have expected an edgier attire. Nevertheless, he was a much better player than I. How long would it have taken to me be able to play his parts as cleanly as he had done? I couldn't make out the drummer's features behind his equipment, and unfortunately I had already met a keyboardist. This turned out to be the last song. The audience was demanding an encore, but the band quickly disappeared off stage. Maybe they didn't have a large repertoire. And what was I going to do next? On one hand, I wanted to talk to Ellie and tell her that I liked her music. On the other hand, wouldn't that sound like a trite compliment? Besides, she was clearly not happy to see me at her concert. While I contemplated, the crowd began to disperse, and still C had not emerged from the dressing room. They must have left through the back door. Sie verlassen den Club durch die Hintertür, um in Ellies Hintertür zu gelangen. Ja, der war schlecht. Oh well, I didn't have much to say to her anyway. Still, I was grateful to Ellie. Her music had allowed me to escape my problems, if only briefly. The club was almost empty now, but I remained frozen in the middle of the dance floor, immersed in my own thoughts. Usually, I left before the end of a concert, feeling uplifted instead of waiting for the bitter aftertaste of the fun's conclusion. Either it had gotten warmer outside or the alcohol was warming me up. Somehow, I made it to the house in no time at all. Another note from Himitsu was resting on the doorstep. Surely this time she could have let herself in with a key, since I hadn't bolted the door from the inside. She could have made dinner and waited for me, as she had done the day before. However, the note made it clear that I couldn't even begin to count on it. Or did she think that I was just amusing myself? The note, the mysteries, the man shadowing me? Just because I couldn't tell her about all the stuff didn't mean I didn't want to. So I'd gone to a concert, what of it? A man had to enjoy some culture once in a while. Of course none of this was Himitsu's fault. I was just wary of her incessant misplaced worrying. Of late I felt myself caged up when I was with her more and more often. As children grow, they gain independence, but in my case, Himitsu had essentially replaced my deceased parents, and little had actually changed in my life. But to take all this for granted, did I really feel no gratitude out toward her? Judging by the note, she was not just upset but also hurt. Perhaps I could at least call her. I didn't need to give any details, just tell her that everything was okay. I could, of course, stop by her place, but it was already late. I reeked of alcohol and the call would be sufficient for the occasion. I dialed the phone number familiar to me from childhood. Almost immediately her voice came over the line. Hello, Nico-kun? Just about what I had expected. Hi, sorry I disappeared today. Silence at the other end. You're not going to believe me if I tell you I had things to do, are you? Did you? I sighed heavily. I am hurt that you're hiding something from me. Even if I am, there are good reasons for it. But I'm not hiding anything. The insane love was meant to diffuse the situation. You know that I'm always here for you if anything happens. Okay, I'll see you at school tomorrow. Good night. Good night. I hung up, paused to think. What if I told her everything? I highly doubted that Himitsu could help me in any way, but at least I wouldn't have to shoulder my problems alone. I was gazing at the phone and was just about to head to bed when it rang. Himitsu again? Forgot to say something? Yeah, hi. I started out automatically. Seriously, who else was going to call me at this hour? Who else was going to call me, period? Nikolai-kun. I was wrong, the speaker was Ichinose-san. Ichinose-san? I'm listening. Nikolai-kun, I considered for a long time whether to call you
After all, I told you myself this morning to keep out of my business. But I owe much to your father, you see. And since he's no longer with us, the least I can do is repay the debt to his son.
I simply didn't know what to say.
Are you listening to me?
Yes, absolutely, I'm all ears.
I don't know all of that much myself, nor did your father, I suspect. But there's a person. Write this down. No, better memorize it. The name is Akira Shinji. He used to work with your father and me, but he got laid off. He now owns a little restaurant somewhere on the waterfront.
Ichinosu fell silent for a moment, but then continued hastily.
Nikolai, I don't know if you're in any danger, but please be careful.
Ichinosu-san, which waterfront exactly? Tokyo has lots. That name is pretty common too.
I can't. I have to go. Take care of yourself.
He hung up. He was clearly afraid of something. Afraid, yes, yet he called and warned me and even gave me a clue. Though Akira Shinji was like Ivan Ivanov or John Smith. For some reason I felt no fear at that moment, more like reckless excitement and boldness. Probably owing to the quantity of alcohol consumed earlier. Literally, at the moment I got off the call with Ichinosu, I felt incredibly sleepy. I barely made it to my bed before crashing. Ja, falls ich mal so ein bisschen ins Strudeln gerade, dann liegt das halt unter anderem auch daran, weil ich auch ziemlich müde bin. Ich weiß nicht. Sommer und Wärme macht mich immer müde. I woke up early, filled with a headache, the tri-horrors, and a terrible feeling of the meaninglessness of existence. Good thing I always had aspirin in the medkit, although it's the only thing there was in the first place. After washing the pill down with a couple glasses of cold water, I figured that yesterday didn't really end too badly. At least today I didn't slug it in the bed all the way to lunchtime. The memories started to return slowly. Vicious and heavy, they were surfacing in my mind, bringing with themselves an extorting unease. I suddenly felt uncomfortable alone in this giant empty house. I certainly needed to go to school. Or at this rate I could really get myself expelled. It wasn't about my attendance, of course. I just desperately wanted to be among other people. I stepped out on the street and the chilly air immediately drew away the last remains of the hangover. It was still too early even for Himitsu. Oh well, we talked yesterday. Also, the early part seemed to only apply to me. The life in Tokyo was already in full swing. The clerks were on their way to work, clad in identical snow-white shirts. The grocery stores and all kinds of shops were opening up. The cheerful old women were drawling, striking conversations with each other. I was walking down the street, enjoying life. Until that moment, I never even noticed that small things like these made the world a much more attractive place than I ever thought it to be. Could anything really go wrong? The fear for my own safety, even my own life, made me realize I wasn't ready to change anything yet. Just up and return to USSR? No, that's foolish. That's the voice of the drunk juvenile radicalism. But what was I supposed to do then? Fight here and now? Or just go with the flow? After all, a life as wonderful as this couldn't possibly be A life as wonderful as this couldn't possibly be senselessly cruel at the same time, could it? The world turned its friendly smiling face to me, and my stomach responded with as friendly as a rumble. And to think that dieser Typ, ey, weißt du? Ah, scheiße. Mein Ohr tut mega weh. And to think that at the start of the morning even a thought of food had been making me want to puke. I entered a small restaurant and lightly ate a bowl of ramen. All my worries faded into the background and hope glimmered in the distance. I was just getting all worked up while nothing serious was really going on. For a year and a half I was living as if in an anabiosis. Whew. So now every little thing seemed like a problem of galactic proportions. If something would have really had happened to me, for example if I received a visit from the police in my house, I'd have surely gotten a heart attack. I just needed to calm down, wait it out, and all the troubles would solve themselves. As if not, I'd work on them as they'd come up. Wie lange nehme ich denn jetzt auf? Nicht mal eine Stunde? When approaching the school, I was carried along by a crowd of students. I had spent a good half an hour in the ramen shop, and it wasn't as early in the morning by then. Japanese, Americans, French, Russians. Sometimes it seemed to me that my school was a bit too international. It was a good thing though, I didn't feel as alien among them as, for instance, sitting at a narrow counter on a low chair in a typical Japanese snack bar. Several guys shook my hand on the run, some girls even flashed me a smile. Warum schüttelt man einfach so die Hände mit Leuten? Warum lächeln uns Mädchen zu? Träumen wir? I recalled being in the same class as the girls last year, but wouldn't be able to remember her name, even if my life depended on it. I was close to saying I was happy, but... At the lockers, I ran into Catherine. Hi! You're early today. She gave an unexpectedly polite response. Yeah, I skipped yesterday. I can't keep ditching school forever. Decided to get yourself together, really. Catherine looked at me wide-eyed and frowned. Oh, I see. She had that smile on her lips again. I ignored it and said simply, yeah, you know, so much has happened yet lately. I may have been feeling fine, but couldn't hide my swollen face. Especially not from Catherine. Well, so oh, enough already. What are you staring at me for? You know it all. Emotion changed quickly on Catherine's face. The surprise gave place to indifference. She lost interest. That's not what I'm... or maybe that too. I don't want to fight anymore. I just think you have to understand my reaction. Put yourself in my shoes or something. What are you even talking about? Catherine asked imperturbably. Junge, schick doch einfach mal ein Wörterbuch damit, das ist ja unglaublich. About everything, don't pretend you don't understand. Don't understand what? I didn't even know how to talk to her anymore. Alright, you want me to understand you? I do now. Oh, here we go again. Is that your way of mocking me? Why would I be mocking you? Well, that's a question I should be asking you. First you come back without a reason, then you transfer into my class and pretend like it's how it should be. Show at least a morsel of respect. What should I respect you for? I couldn't hear Catherine. I had already forgotten to even think about yesterday's events, about the morning contemplations. Or just don't talk to me anymore. I'm tired of degrading myself before you, struggling to get at least some kind of humane treatment of you. It looked like she wasn't ready to this kind of reaction. So make your choice. I turned around and went up the stairs to the second floor. Oh, hey Nick, where have you been? Kioska was as carefree as always. Oh, I've been drinking, I snarled. I see. You're not in the mood. Talk to you later then, he responded sadly. Catherine entered the class almost immediately after me. There were several minutes still left until the bell, and they dragged on tormentingly slowly. It'll be easier during the lesson, it'll be easier, I was consoling myself. Meanwhile, Catherine wasn't paying any attention to me at all. No, this was crossing the line now. I stopped being mockery and turned into just her crook behavior. Did she fall down riding a bike in the USA of hers? Into the Grand Canyon? The bell finally rang. During the lesson I was only thinking about Catherine, a burning to the point of shudder's desire to turn around and look at her swelling in my chest. I couldn't manage to distract myself of anything. Yesterday's conversation with Ichinose and the mysterious threat hanging over my head seemed to have suddenly lost any meaning. A single thought was pulsating in my head, to sort out my relationship with her once and for all. I'd been figuring out if I still love her or not later, and now I needed to... Needed to what? Now goddamn, I can't do this anymore. If I allowed further, I hit the desk with my forehead. No, King-kun, are you alright? I heard constrained laughs and whispers. Could be better, Sensei. Just checking if there's anything in my head. The teachers didn't even flinch on an eyebrow. He's seen much working in this school. Perhaps you should go to the doctor. No, I'm telling you I'm fine. Well, do as you will, just don't interfere with the lesson. After this circus act I felt a bit better. Strikingly, the planet kept spinning and paid no attention to my problems. The bell to the break rang. I was approached by fuckboy Michael. It seemed like he wasn't going to start a conversation, but for some reason he just kept looking at me attentively top down. Well, what is it? I finally asked. Oh, you're not yourself today. Is it because of yesterday? Yesterday? How does he know? I'm in a conversation in the cafe. Oh, yeah, right, the cafe. No, it's not about that. Everything's fine, or will be, even if it isn't now. Without even turning her head, Catherine walked past us. I stared after her and must have made quite a face. Ah, I see. Michael said disappointedly. What do you see? I started to get worked up again. Are all of you Americans like this? Like what? Like this, completely disregarding of other people. Poking your noses in others' business, senseless and cold and cruel? Ist das so eine Anspielung? I think you're talking about someone in particular right now. The gritting of my teeth must have been audible to the whole class. You know what, Misha? Fuck you, got it? Fuck you to hell. Last thing I need is your questions and observations. Don't meddle with other people's lives, mind your own. I stood up, looked up at him and down, but Michael didn't look aside. Then I pushed him away with my shoulder and left the class. Good God, what the hell was I doing? Just lashing out on one of the few people who still at least talked to me? Maybe he wanted to help. After all, Michael's no Kioska. The latter would immediately start to jump around, dolefully wringing his hands, and to what good will that make? Sometimes it really is better to take a cold-headed look at the situation from the side. I will definitely apologize before him, but later, at the moment I just wanted to switch gears and get away from the class. To be alone, or at least with someone who wouldn't pry into my soul. With Himitsu, for example. Oh, you're right, she wouldn't. Although, if she were to see my present condition, Himitsu would probably understand. So...